You know I'm right. The podcast that uncovers the origin stories of some of the biggest names in media, entertainment, sports, business, entrepreneurship, and so much more. Nick Durst here along with Joe Calabrese. And Joe, we are very excited for our guest today. This guy's kind of a big deal in the business world. We'll talk about that. You also may have seen him on your TV screen as well.
Absolutely. As you know, we're becoming the go-to reality TV podcast. But again, his expertise is also in the business world. You may have seen him on TV. We welcome the head of GA Wholesale Solutions, retail, and you may have seen him on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake. Welcome Seth Marks to the show. Seth, as you can see from the background, you're mobile right now. So why don't you tell
Always on
our
the go.
the listeners, where are you?
I'm in New York City. Joe and Nick, thank you so much for having me.
Seth, we're honored to have you on with us. You're obviously a busy guy, so I'm curious, when you wake up in the morning, if you even sleep, I don't know if you have time to sleep. What's the first app you're checking on your phone?
I'm glad you asked that. I try to jump out of bed, literally get out of bed and go to the gym first thing. Like, don't even look at the phone. I decompress with the phone at
Mhm.
night, and so I try not to look at the phone in the morning, and then go to the gym. No social stuff until work. It's almost like a reward to go look at it at the end of the day. So I don't look at it in the morning. So the first app I look at is actually emails for work, and then I'm like, and then you have like three oh shit moments, and then you cut your workout short, and you just got to push the pace every day.
Push through it. So you probably have like an insane amount of frequent flyer miles. What's your go-to airline, and are you at the top status with that airline with the clubs?
That's a great question. I grew up in Chicago. I was a United guy.
Mhm.
And then when we moved out to Salt Lake, United was very difficult. But it wasn't like a main hub. So immediately went to Delta. So I've climbed to the top of Delta. It's all about Delta at this point in my life. That's what people say, where are you from? It's
Yeah.
basically Delta.
All right, give us your list here. The worst airports in the United States.
Oh, Atlanta. Atlanta is freaking horrible.
Heard the same thing. Atlanta for those
Eh,
layovers and all that kind of stuff. You never catch a connector flight in Atlanta. Is that true?
Yeah, it's horrible. If you rent a car, any place you got. First of all, any place you got to get on a shuttle to rent a car right. I mean, it throws the game off. And by the way, you know, so I love the small airports, but there's not a lot of those left, unfortunately.
All right. So
But
when
but
you when you fly into the Big Apple, New York, which of the three airports are you using?
you wouldn't believe it. I'm a Newark guy. I'm a
Yes,
huge.
that's the way to go, Seth.
Newark is the most
The easiest airport.
easiest
Yes.
airport in America.
I feel like people like that it's a conspiracy. Guys like us are the ones shitting on it, so no one else goes and flies in it, right? Like it's
Right.
Yeah,
it's the
I don't
it's
know why you would fly into LaGuardia and JFK because first of all, the airport's a disaster. Then from to get out of that airport to go to anywhere you want to go in Manhattan or anything, you're in the car at least 2 hours. Newark,
it,
right through the
it's
tunnel, 30,
yes.
40 minutes, wherever you gotta go.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, I flew into JFK reluctantly today, and I saw there's so much damn construction going on over there, and
No,
there's a banner that says $19 billion renov built
Yep.
19 billion. How is no one throwing challenge flags on that? The three of us could have done that for at least 11 billion minute, like max, right? The hell
Yeah,
is 19 billion?
crazy stuff. I
Makes no
know,
sense.
Seth. I love you. You talked about the challenge flag. You know your sports background because I mean, you were big time at California State University, Long Beach. You were the basketball manager.
Yes.
So
Like,
talk to
what
us
did you do?
about being a big basketball fan back from high school into college.
Holy cow, Nick, that's incredible due diligence. Yeah, I wanted to be in sports. I love sports. It's just I just love competing and love being around it. And grew up in a suburb of Chicago where the North Shore's town called Highland Park. And I was an overachieving, Jewish athlete who thought he was much better than he was. And when you're tackling Ari Goldberg from Deerfield, and then you go out to, I actually tried to walk on the football team at Long Beach State. I played basketball and football in high school, but got my clock cleaned in a reality check and immediately said, my playing career is over. I need to get in. I want to stay in sports. What's the best way to do it? And being a manager of the basketball team was a natural move for me. So going from playing to mopping the floor and mixing the Gatorade and washing the uniforms was an incredibly humbling experience. But what the best part of that story is, we went and played at U of A. I went to Long Beach State, tried to walk on the football team. First day of contact, got my bell rung, retired, and went to become the manager of the basketball team. We went and played at U of A. I actually was the traveling manager of the basketball team, which was amazing. And I don't know if you've been to Tucson, U of A. It's an incredible vibe and culture. And I had a couple buddies that went to high school with that were there, and I ended up staying there. And the coach, Seth Greenberg, who was the coach at the time, is calling saying, "Where's Marks? Where's little Seth?" Like, they call me Seth Jr., little Seth, because the head coach's name was Seth too. And Seth Marks stayed at U of A for another 30 days until my parents found out. I said, "Where the F are you?" I said, "I'm at U of A. I'm transferring to U of A." Like, first you got to finish up at Long Beach State, but I ended up transferring to U of A from that one experience. And therefore, my management career in basketball was short-lived. So,
I was gonna say, so the Utah Jazz is the only ticket in town in Salt Lake City. Do you guys got the perks, and do you go there at all or no?
not really. We're in Park City half the year, in New York. I'm traveling all over the place, but mostly in Utah. But the Jazz, they're not competitive. I don't like to go to games where the teams aren't competitive. I'd rather go to a WNBA game. That's some real basketball these days.
Oh yeah.
We went to a Liberty game a couple years ago, Nick and
Yeah,
I.
Liberty game was awesome. We were there, but unfortunately, you're an alum of U of A, and their football team has been atrocious since the Gronkowski days. But Gronk has nothing but good things to say about the school and the party scene.
I love Gronk. He is. I'm all about, and I get this vibe from you guys and just meeting you. Authenticity, man. There's so many FOS guys out there. The older I get, the less tolerance. It's painful to be around people like that. And Gronk is super authentic, and I get that from Joe and Nick. Like, who
Oh
has
yeah.
time to be around anything but authentic? And it gets you in trouble a lot, by the way.
Well, I think the podcast is appropriately named, right? For authenticity and all of that lovely stuff. Just a quick note, like you say, Tucson and Phoenix and Scottsdale, everything is located within about an hour or so of each other, right? So that makes everything connected to Arizona, really close knit over there in the desert, right?
Oh yeah, I-10. I-10, and by the way, short flight. When the time changes, you could actually go back to the future and you could leave for Vegas at like 7 p.m. and get there at 6:50 p.m. It's unbelievable.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. Let's talk about what you studied in school, because probably deviate a little bit since then. You got your bachelor's in sociology there. So talk about what you really wanted to do or pursue when you were younger.
Sports management. I wanted to be an agent, like
Oh yeah.
like a Jerry Maguire, Lee Steinberg. I think who that movie was based
Give me
on.
the money.
Yes, yes. I just be around the action of sports, and sociology was the study of people and human behavior, which is super pragmatic and practical, and supposed to have a higher gender penetration of females, which was also alluring to me at that stage of my life. But so sociology, it also seemed to be like I have three kids. They all are high achieving academic kids. They all went to school, college, graduated from great colleges. And my wife, she got her JD MBA from Kellogg and Northwestern. And I'm more of that hard knocks guy. I grew up in a family business. My grandpa was a hustler. My dad was a hustler, and I worked for them, buying and selling liquidation deals and closeouts. And I saw how well they did, and none of them went to school. So, I was like, well, I had a brother go to UCLA and a brother go to Georgetown, and my kids are going to Michigan and NYU, and but and all this stuff. And I was like, I pay them not to go to school to save me money because I actually think when you're trained how to think, you just become part of the herd.
Yep.
And
Right.
and
That's right.
yeah, and I always told my kids, thank God for the C students because the A students would have no one to work for. But so you're looking at a C student right now.
Yeah, and I think the whole thing with college, it's really changing now because, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, I don't think people are going to be saying like I have to go to college. First of all, the price is just insane. And second of all, it doesn't necessarily help you at all to get your first job. Everybody goes through long spells of unemployment in their careers now. So is college going to be worth it in 10, 15 years from now? Who knows?
No. By the way, short answer, no, especially with what's happening in AI, right? You
Mm.
just, in these schools, liberal arts schools, those are going to be extinct,
Oh yeah.
right? Like if you don't have technology going on, like if you look at what like Virginia Tech has gone from like a top 100 to like a top, anything with tech in it is going to the top, right? Like you got to learn how to drive AI and work with technology. And the liberal arts schools, which is part of the problem with our country is that kind of education
Hmm.
is I think those schools are going to be really close to becoming extinct.
So let's talk about how your family life, and well, you could even mix in a little tech talk. How did that contribute during the start of your career in wholesale and retail? And really, what was the segue that kind of led you in that direction?
I think role models and mentorship like that, I think is the most powerful form of education and, reverse recruiting them. It's easy when you get really lucky when it's your dad or your grandfather or someone in your family that you can, sponge off of and you see, they're teaching you with their feet, not with their mouth. And you got a front row seat. It's pretty powerful. I had an incredible grandfather and have an incredible father that, uh, they're super high integrity guys, and they work ethic that doesn't stop. And when you combine integrity with work ethic and relationship building, and they're intellectually curious guys, and so I learned a lot from them. And I and it was I was very lucky to grow up. Um, you know, I like to say, just simply say with a silver spoon in my butt, and I never wanted to lose it. And you got to fight to keep it. And when third generation comes, Joe and Nick, you guys see this. I actually third generation is a breaking point for a lot of businesses because there's some studies around how the founder, the grandfather, how hard 7 day a week person just grinding all the time, and then their kids, second generation, they see that, they
Hmm.
know how to do it. They're sitting there watching their dad work their butt off. It's the third generation now. They're going over to nothing against the Ivy League, but a lot of Ivy League kids that go in and fuck up businesses are third generation family business people that think they have all the answers coming in. They don't have time to unload the import truck that doesn't come in on pallets, right? That's a tough truck to unload, and they can get bullshitted about all the supply chain. And when you got the kids that come in with these big fancy degrees on day one, third generation family businesses, and they didn't hit every ring in the ladder to understand the process, they can be bullshitted. And
Hmm.
that's how businesses go out of business. And a lot of it is led by third generation is statistically the most mismanaged business. I left, I was part of third generation. And once cousins and brothers and it got really crowded, it becomes very difficult emotionally, and it could really rip families apart. Even if they're super successful businesses, you go home and you're miserable because you can't talk to your brother and you don't want to see your uncle or whatever. And so your family's getting ripped apart, even though you've got all these great luxuries that money affords you. The most important thing, family, number one, family, getting ripped apart. So I had to leave at a young age, and I was like, you know what? I got ostracized a little bit, cut off the payroll, and I had to figure it out. But I stayed in the same industry and have stayed in that industry for 30, going on 32 years. Um, so I don't know if I answered the question, Joe. It was a bit of a rant.
No, I don't want to get into detail about what's going on for me when it comes to my family, but I do think that there are two components to this. One, it's the deviation of interests, right? And other generations that come after the third generation usually wants to kind of make it on their own, or they have different things going on. And again, it is hard to maintain those relationships over time and it becomes exhausting. So I think it was an incredibly sincere and correct answer. And I would expand on that a little bit because, as you mentioned before, your experience kind of led you to believe that, you don't want to be part of the herd necessarily, right? The hive mind mentality. But you worked for Big Lots twice, as well as Sears, Overstock, and many other companies, right? So how do you see this applying within those major companies, even to today?
The applying it. Sorry, double click on that. Can you ask that again in a way when you say this, like the
Oh no, I meant
mindset?
like the herd type of mentality, and how do you see that playing out within these big companies, like even to today? And is there anything that you think these major companies, based on your and experience seeing how they internally operate, is there anything that they're doing, that's kind of driving away their workforce or kind of, disassociating, disconnecting the modern worker, from what they're doing?
it's it's an interesting time, Joe. I mean, I got into the turnaround side. Started in the liquidation and just monetizing assets and helping banks recover their loans. That was really what grew up in that. And then so many times you get into these businesses and you say, why is the whole thing? Why is all of Toys R Us liquidating? Why is all there's it's usually pilot error 9 out of 10 times when businesses liquidate. And they like to point out the window on the macroeconomic factors, but 9 out of 10 times, and there are a lot of it, much more evolved, advanced guys that have been doing this even longer than me that will tell you 10 out of 10 times it's pilot error. But it's the culture of the workforce, which I think generationally, you guys are look like millennial Gen Z-ish guys.
Not
But
right.
you can't just throw out the culture's core values in front of you. There are things, each culture thinks they can do it better than the previous one, and they all do. And I always, the joke was, I walked to school with no shoes in the snow, and then
Yeah.
it just gets softer and softer and softer to the point that I think the root cause is how you manage, because the DNA of a business is in its culture. That's it, totally indigenous. That
Oh
is
yeah.
unique to the business, and that's the secret sauce. And you can't teach it. That
Mhm.
is that's the driver, that's the quarterback, that's that's the coach. That's the tone of the business. And
Yeah.
I think cultures are what destroy businesses. And the softer it is, the more likely it is to be destroyed.
Yeah, I've worked at a few places with some toxic cultures where the people at the top had no clue what they were doing, and they would hire people just to like use them as a shield and blame them when things went wrong. And that's what kind of kills companies. It sucks, but it happens.
All the time. That happens all the time. I think there's two kinds of CEOs I've seen. There's the ones that genuinely ask questions that they don't know the answer to and hire people to fill their weak spots, right? And then there's the ones that gotcha. They ask questions they know the answer to, and they don't want to get involved in talking about things
Mm.
they don't know. And that's what destroys businesses. Also, these egomaniacs
Oh
that are
yeah.
at the top. Seen that? We've all seen that, right?
Yeah, they're like, you know what? We gotta lay off half the staff. I'll retain my 45 million per year salary, but we gotta make some room on the books.
Exactly. And the best workers I've ever been around in my life are the ones that are the quietest and have their head down and are just getting shit done.
Yep.
Right. And they don't know how to peacock around and puff their chest. But the chest puffers, which are generally the most educated, it's like you're almost educated how to talk Shakespearean boardroom bullshit, and then you get rewarded for it. And then they got it. The people that had some hard luck and couldn't afford a great education or any education at all, don't know how to play that political game, and they
Mhm.
suffer for it, but they're the glue and the nucleus of every business.
Absolutely. So with you, obviously, your main residence, Salt Lake City. You did some work there in Utah. You've also worked in Canada. You've worked at Chicago, Dallas, Ohio, Mississippi. You've been all over. So what do you see as far as the differences in work culture when it comes to geography around the country?
It's a great question, and it's totally different. Every single place is, and I think where I learned is I pride myself. I was very dense. I had I was very fixed and stubborn in my thinking. And you think that if it works in Chicago, it'll work in Toronto, and it couldn't be further apart. Those cultures, Canadian culture, even in different areas, just like in the U.S. as you're describing. I've worked in Hattiesburg. I was in Hattiesburg, Mississippi for a few years. Dallas, Texas, as you pointed out. Salt Lake City, the Mormon influence of that culture is like nothing I've ever seen. The biblical Bible Belt of Mississippi is like nothing I've ever seen. The passive aggressiveness of Toronto is like nothing I've ever seen. Like, and I just say, if you bring the Chicago style, it'll work, and it doesn't. So I think taking time to really understand culture
Yeah.
and is the nuances that you're talking about, that it's the difference between winning and losing.
Oh yeah.
Because
So
people don't give a shit. You know, the old, I forgot who said it, like how much you know until they know how much you care. Right. That is the truest thing. And so you get all these smart guys coming in, guys in the general neutral sense, because I do believe the best business leaders are female. Nick, Joe, the three of us are disadvantaged, right? Like there's that ability that female business leaders have a deeper ability to connect and understand. I'm studying my wife and daughter full time, but also in the business. The business leaders I've gotten along with the best have been female business leaders. Like
yeah.
it seems like their egos aren't. The
Yeah.
results are more important than the ego.
Okay. Now,
Very
I've worked for like, a pretty mega uh, CEO before. And what you're saying, I could agree with because it was the opposite there. So I'll tell you about that after the fact. But so all these cities that you worked in, obviously you're not getting home cooked meals. So which place had the best food? And as a Chicago guy, deep down inside, where's your go-to place for the deep dish in Chicago?
I actually Toronto. Chicago's got a great reputation as a great culinary city, and it is. And by the way, Gino's East was or Eduardo's, either one of those for deep dish in Chicago. But that's a big. It's a the aftermath on some of that. It's kind of like guy like me, a little bit of a lactose roulette issue going. But so when you take that big cheesy pizza.
Yeah.
But Toronto is to me one of the great culinary markets in the world, because you go in the kitchen and it's the people that it's the Italian people in the kitchen. You go into a French restaurant, it's the French people
Right.
in the kitchen.
You
In
don't see that. You don't get that in New York.
not
Not
anymore.
anymore. Not anymore. And this is the thing. I'm an independent, was a libertarian, but no one would take that seriously. So now I'm an independent. But the thing with immigration is these low-paying jobs. I mean, I was in a Italian restaurant in New York City a few weeks ago. The owner was immigrated from Mexico as a busboy, and when the Italian guy
Sold.
35 years later wanted to retire and he had no one to sell it to, that same busboy who is now his head chef at that Italian restaurant became the owner. And I think like the American dream, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a fourth generation American, but I wouldn't be here if they didn't let in my great grandparents. Right. So I mean, it's a pretty sensitive topic, but as far as it relates to the culinary world, I think the Latin influence with the immigration are running the kitchens of America, regardless of the ethnic type of food.
I think that's
In
an
ter-
excellent observation.
I assume you're Italian, Joe, from the
Oh,
last
come
name.
on.
All right, family born and raised in Little Italy.
This guy runs Little Italy downtown.
And who's in the kitchen cooking? Is it all
Not
Italians?
Italians anymore. I think I can tell you that.
It's Latin,
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Hispanic. It's amazing. They're the most influential force of culinary art in our country. And those are the ones that put their head down and grind. And next thing you know, they're a head chef making six figures in their family and they're educating. It's a beautiful story. That's what
Hmm.
America's about.
They
Yeah.
are incredibly hard workers. I mean, I around that culture, seeing the restaurant business, but I also have some uncles who have done contracting work all around New York City through the years, both residential. They know people who do commercial stuff, and it is again the Latin. It's the backbone of so many industries and so incredibly diligent, hard workers. And I really don't think they get their due. I think you're right.
The best. No, the best. Absolutely. And when you get to know these people, right, their core values and their work ethic are so, and they're rooted in family.
Mhm.
It's the beautiful culture of that Hispanic Latin culture.
Seth, how's the matzo ball soup, brisket, and potato latkes out in Salt Lake City? Because I can't imagine there being much good Jewish food out there.
Danny Wolf was just drafted by the Brooklyn Nets in the first round. Kid from the North Shore was in the same high school conference. Jewish kid that went to Michigan. Uh, I never thought I'd see that before I saw a good bowl of matzo ball soup, or any type of anything from the Jewish kitchen in Salt Lake. Haven't found it yet in Salt Lake. I've not found good matzo ball soup in Salt Lake, but somehow a Jewish kid was drafted in the first round before matzo ball soup became worthy in Salt Lake.
I think that's a pretty good business idea. I got to talk to people who can make that happen for you guys.
Not a big market, Joe. I don't think it's a big market in Salt Lake.
Well, let's talk about your current job with J Group, SVP of Wholesale Solutions. Who approached you about that, or was that something that you wanted to do eventually?
Yeah, the GA Group is a valuation and liquidation firm. So when banks do asset-based loans, and I started when I left the family business, I went to one of the largest competitors of the GA Group called Hilco Global. And that's another place. Twice in my career, I got recruited back to take my boss's job. Once was at Hilco Global, where I got recruited back to be a CEO of the Hilco, the same kind of business I'm in now, but at Hilco. And there's one called Gordon Brothers, and the GA Group, which was formerly called B. Riley, recently acquired by Oak Tree Capital Management, $200 billion fund that acquired the GA Group. And what we do at the GA Group, Joe and Nick, is we have our largest headcount is in our valuation appraisal business. When banks do asset-based loans, you have to get documents of appraisals to tell you what those assets are worth should the loan go sideways. So that helps you set the advance rate for the borrower, for a retailer or a wholesaler. So everything I do is consumer products, mostly on the vendor side that sells into the retailer or the retailer, but the majority of those types of businesses have asset-based loans. So when the loans go bad, that's where Seth comes in. And we need to start recovering the loan. So we
Super
gotta,
Seth.
I gotta, run a process to where we can help the bank recover the loan as close to 100 cents on the dollar that they lent as possible. And it's agnostic. It could be any type of category of merchandise. So for 32 years, I've been on the road all over the country and been in basically anywhere there's a distribution center in the United States. I've been there, not to that distribution center, but it's amazing how many distribution centers are all over the United States. I've not been to North Dakota or South Dakota, haven't done deals there, but have done them in Alaska.
Well, that's the Mount
But I
Rushmore trip.
sorry.
The Mount Rushmore trip, right?
Yeah, I do want to go for that reason. But you guys are going to be on my podcast, Mount Rushmore.
There we
If you
go.
guys are like, guys, just from knowing you, like, first of all, Nick did some homework, which I
Oh yeah.
love. And
The number one compliment that we get, and Nick does a lot of the research, and for certain guests here and there, he'll allow me to kind of lay out the questions. The number one compliment that we get is, I've never been asked this before, or like a variation of you get good questions, which is kind of what you're saying now. So, Nick,
Appreciate it.
best.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
Seth,
yeah.
Seth, I can say this probably pretty confidently. Never have you gone about 30 minutes into an interview where we did not bring up the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. So that's where we're at right now.
I was working so hard to not have to do that.
Well, we got to talk about your lovely lady, Meredith, of course, on the show. What was your reaction when they first approached her with this idea to do the show?
It It's complicated. I didn't want to do it. As gregarious as I didn't
Wow.
sign the release, and I held out actually and said, "Hey, I don't think there's real upside for me to do this, but it would be amazing for you to do because it has a design business and a jewelry business. She has she sells to other jewelry retailers. She has her own boutique, and she was building her brand, the Meredith Marks brand. So it was a natural opportunity to leverage the platform to get awareness around her brand. But our marriage is falling apart. We just became empty nesters, which is like third generation to businesses. That's the equivalent of marriages. When that nest empties, shit breaks. And
Mhm.
ours, and when you got a stubborn guy like me that didn't want to go to couples therapy for for a long, long time, she's, I think we should go. No, you need it. I don't need it. Eventually, next thing you know, she's saying, "Hey, I think you should move out." And at that same time, Nick and Joe, it's crazy is we filmed the sizzle reel to see if the show. She asked me to join her. We were still married, and like 6 months later, we heard we were separated. But 6 months later, the show got picked up while we were literally like just falling apart. I refused to go on the show with her. But a long-winded way of saying it was. I advised, hey, I love you. I love our kids. I think it'll be good for you, and I'll support you. But I'm not going on the show. And that's how it started.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, she got you on, and what's appreciated about you, Seth, is you're just yourself. You're natural out there. You are just being yourself. Other people put on some acts for the camera. So, what do you remember about the first time you actually did film a scene with Meredith?
As you could tell, I like to have a good time.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you guys work whatever what I should ask, like what you guys do to keep busy. Is it all in the entertainment media business?
Oh well, we were big in sports and entertainment. That's our two things right there.
Amazing. So for me, it was a digression. Like it was just to have fun and have a good time and kind of make my friends that I went to high school with in college that were watching the show. I was almost like just giving shout outs to them with my kind of, behavior that Meredith doesn't always love. But, this is who I am. I love to have a good time. I like to laugh. I want my last breath, no matter what it is. Oh, so this is how I'm going to die. But I want to laugh,
Yeah.
right? Work is hard, man. Work is
Oh,
hard
yeah.
when you're providing for your family and those of you that have families, and for yourself. I take work very, very seriously. I don't believe in work-life balance. My work does define me. If you want to win, your work better define you. So that when we went on the show, I just didn't think I wasn't going to talk about my work, but I was going to still try to have a good time. And I think it's gotten to the point earlier about you guys being authentic, me being obsessed with being authentic. It gets me in more trouble. You get a lot of, I stopped reading the social stuff because Seth's a creep, all that kind of, but when you get to know me, I think I don't think I'm a creep, but it might sometimes. Can you edit this part out, Nick?
Well, you're being genuine, Seth. I don't know if you're a creep here.
I'll make it a creep. None of that.
No,
You
no,
sound everything so far has been incredibly sincere. and honest.
Yeah, and it's really
And
shocking, Seth, to when you sometimes you get into some heated arguments, but on the show because that doesn't really seem like you're a confrontational guy.
No, no. The role of the husband on Housewives. I'm not a big road. By the way, I've been to some rodeos and they're really cool. But those clowns that go in to save the bull rider, or
Mm,
off, or the
yeah.
bucking bronco rider that could get their head crushed if they're when they're unconscious, laying on the ground or trying to get out of their run for their lives. The husbands are the rodeo clowns for the
Yeah.
housewives. So anytime I'm around in a scene where Meredith's pretty damn good at disengaging without my
Oh
help,
yeah.
yeah,
but if it's getting too hot and she's incapable in a position to moonwalk out and disengage, then I'm jumping in as the rodeo
damage
clown.
control, baby.
What's
Something I
that?
really like about Seth is he does what I would do at all these events is he is definitely going to be eating whatever food is there.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I do enjoy a good cocktail, and I mean, I'm competitive.
Yeah.
I want to beat the open bar every time.
Oh man, I think Seth needs to come with me to an all-you-can-eat buffet out in Vegas. We're gonna really beat the system.
Exactly.
So Seth, we'll move on from Housewives here, but one last thing on Meredith. She's becoming a big-time DJ now. Did you see that coming? A blossoming DJ career at this stage in life?
No, I have to be honest, Nick. I never saw that coming. But it's amazing because the greatest things in life you usually don't see coming, right? Like you really don't, right? You just put your right foot in front of the left foot and do it the right way and be a good freaking person and treat people right. Great shit comes your way. Meredith's a great, why I love her is what you see is what you get. She's really, she makes me better, right? Like she absolutely elevates me as a person. So I think that was a result of, I think maybe subconsciously she was manifesting being a DJ. Somehow that came her way and she's loving it. We're loving it. It's fun and we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah, you're talking Joe's language here because Joe
There you
needs
go.
to be elevated. He needs a lucky lady, and he's manifesting that every day.
Wait, so are you guys married in
I'm married.
relationships?
I have a child. Joe is single and
Amazing.
he's still mingling.
Amazing. Amazing.
Uh,
So Joe, have you been close?
You
Honestly, not yet.
had your relationship with your girl in Michigan.
I did a long
You were living
distance
Seth's
thing.
life. You were going long distance back and forth.
That was years ago. She has since moved on. Wonderful person. Exactly what I needed in my life at the current time. At that time, at the current time, I need something very, very specific because I got a lot of things going on behind the scenes. Can't wait till my family watches this. Let's talk about fun. Well, Meredith's gonna love that clip, so we're gonna cut that for social for her. She's really, really gonna appreciate that. But let's move on here a little bit before I let too much out. Your reaction to your son Brooks getting cast for Next Gen NYC. It seems like this is gonna be running in the family now, huh?
I'm so happy you brought that up. I I find that show to be so enjoyable to watch because these are all 20 something year olds trying to make it in New York City. And it just, somebody made the comment that it's the most authentic show on Bravo. And I couldn't agree more. Like these characters are they're not, I think you watch Housewives and there's a lot of politics and posing and just all, but these kids on Next Gen NYC, it's not a blood sport like some of these housewives shows where they just, as Meredith would say, the rumors and the nastiness. You know, I, Next Gen NYC is incredibly refreshing. I'm so proud of my son Brooks for being a part of that show, and he was kind of instrumental in bringing the band together there.
So on
Great
Next Gen
show.
NYC, you question Charlie's intentions for potentially dating his daughter Chloe. Uh, I don't know if I. So, what in your mind is the ideal type for your daughter? And this is the part where Nick is going to be like, I don't know, Joe. I think if you do X, Y, and Z, maybe you'll be a candidate. But
What?
honestly, sincerely, what would you look for when it comes to your children and their futures, and all of that stuff? What particular qualities do you think you and Meredith, as a family, would value the most?
I I think it's a fabulous question. I think it's all about integrity of the human. Like I think when we've set the theme here, we just authentic, high integrity people. Like you can control that as humans, and kindness, just kind people, right? Like so you're our kids were so blessed and lucky right now. They're for the first time ever, all three in relationships at the same time. Nobody engaged or married, but to good people. So I think, and as a parent, Nick knows, and you'll see as you grow older, all you want is your child to be happy. That's all you want. And so what I think, you know, I'd love Joe for you to meet Chloe, but she's in a relationship. So
All right.
if that
Long as
goes in a bad
she's
direction,
as
I'll be
long as
reaching
she's
out to you.
happy, and
Yeah,
so long as the guy
she.
is
I didn't see this coming. This conversation.
so long as the guy is good to her, that's all that matters, right?
he's great. He's
Respect.
great.
Next
And
Joe NYC.
and by the way, Joe's showing me that soft side. Like you have I mean, which I think that's the hardest part as I've gotten older and de-layered and gotten rid of the tough guy bullshit, and cry when I feel like crying and showing that side has really helped me in my what I call my second marriage to Meredith. It's kind of a closed off emotionally, not a great listener. And now really just asking follow-up questions and because when you love somebody, you need to put in the work every day. It's not like you just set it and forget it, which is what happened to me in my first phase of our relationship. It's time to make the donuts, just go out and grind, put the money in the bank, and then disconnect emotionally and spiritually. And so that emotional support partner is a big deal without being too much of a coward.
Yeah. Seth, when's the last time you took a vacation and how many days was that before you got back to work?
Define vacation, right? It's like just unplugging and shutting it all down, and it's
Yeah.
impossible. It's
Yeah.
impossible. But Meredith went to Greece, and we were planning on going. We were invited to a wedding in London, and I was going to go for 3 days. But they went on a cash trip to Greece, and she loved it so much. She calls me and she says, "Why don't you come out here? I want to stay another week."
Ooh.
And I'm like, I'm working. I can't come out. She's like, I've never been to Crete. I want to go to Crete. You should come to Crete. Next thing you know, I'm chasing her like a 19-year-old who's trying to win her love. And I'm in Crete, working, but in
Put the
Crete.
time
So
down.
it's kind of a hybrid
Wow.
vacation work.
Because Seth, you're an opportunist. I mean, I'm assuming you'll be at BravoCon, but you're gonna be striking business deals, talking to this guy from that show, this one from this show. Let's do some work together. That's gonna be you.
Nick, you can appreciate right on
Oh
brand.
yeah,
I've never been to BravoCon because it's conflicted with my work schedule.
absolutely.
Never stepped foot in one. So this year, I think I'm going to be able to have the flexibility to go, and I'm looking forward to it. Are you guys going?
We'll see if the media credentials
What?
come through.
You know what? We recently signed a really nice national media deal with a company that is associated with a lot of the people who you may have not met but have heard of. So I think there is a strong chance, Nick, that we're going to be there. What do you think?
We'll see.
What,
I don't know about this
what,
year. Maybe when it comes back to New York in 2 years.
I think Seth
what
might want to push us to be there.
you do? No, I do because I will tell you this. My first, I almost lost half my stuff in the love of my life, and if I didn't reconcile with my wife, I don't know how messed up I'd be. I and I had I meet these guys who are way more evolved than I am, and they watch Bravo, straight dudes with their wife or their girlfriend, and I was like, dude, I was watching ESPN. If Bravo went on, I was like a beeline out of the room because I didn't want to hear the fighting and I just want to watch sports, and I'm meeting straight dudes that are like the greatest catch of all time. and having that representation, I don't think there's enough yet,
Yeah.
Joe and Nick.
I figured,
And
Seth, we started this show. We're extremely sports heavy, but there's a little niche of the market here for straight men with reality TV. And
big
that's kind of the
time.
path we've been going. And we've seen a lot of growth. We work very closely with the show Big Brother, but we're in the Bravo sphere. We do the challenge, all that stuff, The Bachelor. It's a different perspective coming from us as opposed to the typical people you hear.
The demographics of reality television are mind blowing to me, especially the Bravo. Like it is the bottom of the funnel. Like I think the unemployment rate for people that watch Bravo is probably on the right side of the decimal. They're all like ballers,
Yeah.
that are driven entrepreneurs, and they just want to get the same reason, like the way I treat it when I'm on it. It's a nice digression from the real world, but I'm like, holy shit, there's cameras here. But the reason you guys watch it is to get away, from the pressure of the real world. And I think the people that do that usually have jobs.
So when are we actually going to meet you in person? We talk about the New York City trip, and unfortunately, we might have missed you this time. We talk about BravoCon, but in reality, like when can we set something up realistically with your busy schedule?
We got to do it. I would love to meet you guys. You get you got the, Nick was saying, you guys get the feedback that you ask great questions, and I check that box off. And I just met you guys. I feel you make me want, like, you always hear the expression, would you want to have a beer or hang out with, right? I would love that. Love to hang out with you guys.
Let's make it happen, or we could go to a sporting event because we're all big sports fans. Yeah, opportunities are endless.
Caitlin Clark's in New York on Wednesday night.
Oh, it's a hot ticket, probably.
Yeah.
Let me look into that one. I'm dying to see her live. Have you seen her live yet?
No.
Yeah, actually, it's real quick here, but we had covered a few Liberty games 2 seasons ago, and then last season
They won it all.
last season their first game of the season was against the Fever, Caitlin Clark, and we got denied media access because they had to bring ESPN in. It was her first game, so we didn't get to see her.
What about when they won? The Liberty went and literally won it in 7. Was that last year? Right? They won.
That was last year. They won. Yes, they beat Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Did you go to that?
No, we did not go because what happens is with the way the credentials work is once it hits the playoffs, the league takes over. So it's all up to the league who they want to allow in. We got to deal with the regular, but any national broadcast, it's very tough for us to get in there.
Before I let you guys go and we get off the WNBA, Sophie Cunningham, is it true she's selling more jerseys than Caitlin Clark now?
After that push, right? So
right?
Could be.
It's possible. I mean, the promotional marketing thing that the Fever do are excellent.
Yeah. I think Seth needs to really go get in his roots and become an agent here because
absolutely.
I could talk sports. That's the greatest. That was the first reality show there ever was. Whenever they put the first sports game on TV, way before we were ever born, someone was pissed off. Someone was really happy. People were probably crying. When you take sports as seriously as it sounds like we all do, like that is, and there's no script, right? Like sports is and you don't need to watch the one before or the one after. You can
So Seth, what are your teams? Are you a Bulls fan?
Chicago, die hard. All
White
Chicago
Sox or
teams.
Cubs?
Oh, is it the Cubs, right? The north side of things?
But you know what? It's like the sign of maturity. I love them both. There's no reason to choose. I love them both. Truly, I was at Game 7 in Cleveland when the Cubs won it all.
Oh, that is.
How'd you clear your schedule for that?
How did you not like pass out?
I've been to every major sports live. Like, Chicago people understand, like, everything stops. Should a Chicago team make it to the a World Series, Stanley Cup, Super Bowl, NBA Finals
run was magic.
Blackhawks,
they get it.
Stanley Cup champs. I can't even see one.
Rangers?
Yeah, we're Rangers guys.
They're sniffing it.
You know what? They won the President's Trophy in '92. They missed the playoffs in '93. They won the Stanley Cup in '94. They won the President's Trophy in '24. They missed the playoffs in '25. Next year.
I don't know.
History
I
does
don't
repeat. Are you
know.
guys Knickerbocker fans too?
Yes, we're Knicks and Rangers, and then Joe is a Jets Yankees fan, and I'm a Giants Mets fan.
Who's the quarterback of the Jets this year? Justin
Justin
Fields?
Field.
Fields, Chicago's very
Wow.
own.
Chicago's very own. He
Uh,
was
uh,
okay
uh,
over there. I mean, he's not the best passer in the world, but he can move an offense. So we'll see what he does.
are you optimistic on the Jets with Justin Fields coming in?
You can't be. We
Well, I
can't,
was gonna say when you're a Jets,
optimistic and Jets don't
they
belong in
don't
the
go
same
together.
sentence.
But when Rodgers came before he blew out his Achilles on the second play or whatever that was, you had to be optimistic then.
At least with Nick with the Mets, over the last like 10 to 15 years, it hasn't been like the Mets have really bottomed out. There have been a couple of okay
Yeah,
middling
the
seasons.
Jets have been bad for 15 straight years.
They've been bad for like 60 years.
I love rooting for the Jets, but because they're like the Cubs. The Cubs got over the hump. Jets have never gotten
Lovable
them.
losers.
Yeah, I used to have a job 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and they'd send me out to do interviews at the Jets and Giants tailgates. And let me tell you, there's nothing quite like a Jets fan tailgating,
Oh my God.
giving them a live mic. I mean, they are just phenomenal.
But yet the Buffalo Bills get all the props for tailgaters, right? Like it's like
Bills,
the whole.
Bills, Jets games. I've been to a few of them at MetLife. Their tailgates and experience is the best because it's a great combination of fun and misery.
So someone who's a diehard sports fan like me, I've never been to a New York sporting event. What would be the one to deflower? Would like get the what
I
one?
mean, I think I guess you got to go to Knicks game.
Yeah. Now that they're actually really, really good and they're kind of on the cusp of competing and staying in the mix for a championship, there's nothing like the Garden during a playoff game. And it was such a shame that they didn't have enough depth against Indiana, this past year. But they have the ingredients and the top level guys. I think you need to win a
I
championship.
will say Liberty versus Fever. That's going to be electric because
Yeah,
the
no,
Liberty
absolutely.
games,
They're great. They're really great.
they play in the Barclays Center, the home of the Nets. The Nets could never imagine drawing the crowd that the Liberty draw. The excitement, and energy in the building is uncharted.
Nobody cares about the Nets franchise. I know like two kids I grew up with. Other than that, they're like the only two fans the Nets have.
I was befuddled and perplexed at the hire of Mike Brown because
Tom
sideways.
I mean, other than like it's the same kind of coach. Exactly sideways, completely. He cracks the whip. He got run out of Sacramento because he overcoaches. And as a Chicago guy, I watched Thibodeau keep ruined Derrick Rose. I saw Derrick Rose on the floor when he blew out his knee. They had like a 15-point lead with 2 minutes left. Back in the day, Jordan would have the Gatorade towel over his head at the end of the bench, sipping a Gatorade. Thibodeau and Mike Brown don't know how to shut players down and preserve them. Mm-hmm. And Mike Brown is Tom Thibodeau. It's the same kind of coach. Dawn Staley was the answer, but no one had the kahunas to do it.
Apparently the Knicks talked to her, but I guess it didn't materialize.
Can you imagine the respect she would have commanded? Right? Like those guys weren't raised, right? Mom raises boys. Yeah. Like as much as I love my dad, like my mom raised me. I don't know about you guys, if you're fortunate to have a mom that was there to raise you. Like, so having a female coach, grown ass men, I really feel like Dawn Staley could have taken them to the next level. I think it's a huge miss.
Now, did you instill your sports fandom onto your children? I know you taught them to play golf and stuff. Do they care as much about it? Maybe your oldest son?
Yeah, my oldest one was the manager of the Michigan basketball team.
Wow.
Yeah, and was third team All-State in Utah as a basketball player. Just at 6 foot, little too slow as a point guard, but could dunk at 6 feet. And my Brooks, when I was coaching him called it junior NBA, I call timeout and I want to run a play. That's why you never should have parents coaching. I want to run a play for my son Brooks to try to hit the winning shot. And I'm talking to my buddy who's the other coach, pretending like we're NBA coaches for these 7-year-olds. And the kids are all there. What play should we run? We're going to run it for Brooks, though. We're going to run it for Brooks. Right. And then 45 seconds later, the kids are all like the starting five. There's only 4. I'm like, where's Brooks? And I turn to my wife. I go, Meredith. She's in the bleachers. Where's Brooks. Like, how is he not even in the, like, is he he's not even nowhere to be found, a timeout. And then Meredith's like, I don't know. Like, she's on her phone. We're all looking for Brooks. And one of the players goes, check the concession stand. I think he went to get some Cheetos. That's what I do at 7 years old. I was only gonna have one kid that was into sports, but so I had to learn other things, which for Brooks and Chloe, it was figure skating and theater and that kind of stuff.
That's amazing. Seth, this has been awesome so far. Last thing here, in your life or your career, what has been your I'm right moment? What I mean by that, it's time or place. You wanted to pursue something. You asked somebody for advice. They said, Seth, bad idea. Don't even try it. It's not going to work. And you were like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and pursue it anyway. And in the end, you will see why it is that I'm right about this. And I can tell you, I told you so.
Greatest question ever. I love it. And it's the freaking foundation of your show, which is what I love. Was breaking off on my own with no safety net, with kids in the house, just couldn't, the tension, headaches, and my mental health. And I didn't know how to articulate it then. I was 28 years old, had a great family business, and I couldn't take the tension. And Meredith supported me. She said, I was so scared and so nervous, but it felt like the right thing to do when you have that stillness that you need to get clarity, which is hard to ever really get true clarity, but as close as you can get. Don't wait for it. You got to just synthesize it through your gut and your instincts. Get some therapy. I did go to therapy at 28 individually because it was that hard on me. But I look back now, 25 plus years, the best thing I ever did in my life. Being fed like a pigeon from anybody's hand, whether it's your family business or a business where you're hitting a ceiling, get the frick out, and you will always be right, because your potential will be held back if you don't. And so I go to bed with peace now for 25 years, but I was right. And at the time, I didn't think I was. When I made that decision, it was like ulcer hemorrhoid shit. Like, it was the worst time of my life. Other than when Meredith left me.
But it all seems to work out. It all works out in your favor, as I tell Nick all the time.
Yes.
Manifested an amazing life for yourself, and you continue to do that. And honestly, there were a lot of really good, I just think, real life nuggets throughout the entire episode. There were a lot of lines, particular, especially about, the history of what happened behind closed doors between you and Meredith and your family life, and, the inner workings of the companies and businesses that you've seen in the work for, right? So, Seth, we really appreciate your time. We thank you for doing this with us. Again, your schedule is very, very busy, and
Yeah, one of our favorite interviews of all time, hands
yeah, I
down.
agree.
Oh my gosh.
It was a really
I
good
got your
mix of the
emails.
segments.
So if I can find some Liberty tickets, Nick, can you get a babysitter Wednesday night?
We could make it work, perhaps. Yeah, we got to sit in the
I,
Qatar
Well,
Airways
I'll
lounge.
definitely be free. I don't know about Nick. I'll
I
definitely.
think I can make it. My wife will.
I,
Hey, I'm going out with Seth Marks tonight. Is that
Nick,
okay with
Nick,
you? Yeah, okay.
if you can get if your wife could get a babysitter, I have no problem driving us in. So
Perfect.
why not?
It's a date.
Amazing, Joe. That you just said means the world, Nick. Likewise, the energy. This is authentic. It's real. I think that's why it was worthwhile conversation, and literally felt like we were just having it over a beer, right? Which
Yeah.
I think are the best. And you guys are. I really appreciate the time you took to talk to me, and great questions, and look forward to staying in touch with you guys.
Seth, likewise, this has been fantastic. We hope to see you soon, and the door is always open for you to come back on this podcast as the retail and wholesale world changes. I'm sure your career will change as well. And listen, Seth, I think you should start taking on some agents here. You'd be a great agent either for Hollywood stars, sports.
I'll work for you.
I want to take you
Yeah,
guys on.
I got
I'm
plenty of
Yeah,
taking
let's make it happen, Seth.
I'm taking you guys
Seth
on.
is going to
We're
open some
going
doors
next
for
level.
us. Let's do
Appreciate
it.
you guys.
All right, that's going to do
Thank
here
you.
for this episode of I'm Right. For our special guest, Seth Marks, my co-host, Joe Calabrese. I'm Nick Durst, and this has been I'm Right.